Hello and welcome to the Scum and Villainy Report. So today we're going to talk about Matt Gaetz, a congressman who refuses to play by Washington's rules. He's outspoken, untethered to big donors, and a political outlier. But for all his brashness, the scandal that's dogged him for years seems more like a political setup than a clear case of wrongdoing. What's the truth behind the allegations? And why does this story seem more like a screenplay than reality? Let's break it down. The story starts with Joel Greenberg, a tax collector in Florida with a penchant for corruption. Greenberg wasn't just stealing from taxpayers. He was creating fake IDs for underage girls and using government credit cards to pay for escorts. One of those IDs would eventually implicate Matt Gaetz in a scandal that's plagued him for years. In August 2020, Greenberg was charged with sex trafficking, identity theft, and producing false IDs. It was this investigation that brought Gaetz into the story. This seemingly mundane responsibility, issuing IDs, became Greenberg's weapon of choice, and it set the stage for all the allegations against Gaetz. Greenberg, desperate to save himself, offered a deal to the DOJ. He claimed he had evidence that Matt Gaetz had engaged in sexual acts with a minor. The DOJ, then under Attorney General Bill Barr, opened a secret investigation into Gaetz. But here's the twist. The investigation remained under wraps until it was leaked to the New York Times in March of 2021. This leak wasn't just convenient. It was perfectly timed to create maximum damage to Gaetz' reputation. When the story broke, Gaetz went on Tucker Carlson's show to tell his side. What followed was one of the most bizarre interviews in recent memory.
The New York Times ran a story saying that Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is under federal investigation for playing some role in sex trafficking and potentially having a relationship with a 17-year-old girl. There are very few details in major news outlets tonight about this story. We have no background on it all and not even any very informed questions. Instead, we've invited Congressman Gaetz on the show to respond to these stories and give us his view of them. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. So this is obviously a serious allegation. Tell us what the truth is from your perspective.
It is a horrible allegation, and it is a lie. The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. People can look at my travel records and see that that is not the case. What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. On March 16th, my father got a text message demanding a meeting wherein a person demanded $25 million in exchange for making horrible sex trafficking allegations against me go away. Our family was so troubled by that, we went to the local FBI. And the FBI and the Department of Justice were so concerned about this attempted extortion of a member of Congress that they asked my dad to wear a wire, which he did with the former Department of Justice official. Tonight, I am demanding that the Department of Justice and the FBI release the audio recordings that were made under their supervision and at their direction, which will prove my innocence and that will show that these allegations aren't true. They're merely intended to try to bleed my family out of money. And this former Department of Justice official tomorrow was supposed to be contacted by my father so that specific instructions could be given regarding the wiring of $4.5 million as a down payment on this bribe. I don't think it's a coincidence that tonight, somehow, the New York Times is leaking this information, smearing me, and ruining the investigation that would likely result in one of the former colleagues of the current DOJ being brought to justice for trying to extort me and my family.
Gaetz alleged that his father had been extorted for $25 million to help free an American hostage in Iran. Money that would supposedly secure Gaetz a presidential pardon for these allegations. The story seemed unbelievable at the time. Tucker Carlson himself looked visibly annoyed. But here's the kicker. Years later, much of what Gaetz claimed appears to be true.
So a couple of obvious questions that come to mind, and again, just to restate, this just happened, don't have any other information beyond what we've already said and you have said. First of all, who is this Department of Justice former employee who's trying to extort the money from you, you say?
His name is David McGee. He was a top official in the leadership in the Northern District of Florida as a prosecutor. He currently works at the Beggs and Lane law firm. As a matter of fact, one of the recordings that was made at the FBI and Department of Justice request occurred at that law firm, and the money that was supposed to be paid today that would have shown even more evidence of David McGee's work in this extortion scheme, that was foiled by the New York Times story, and I believe that's why this horrible information and these terrible allegations have been used this evening.
So and I'll get to the investigation in a sec, but you're saying that David McGee was motivated by greed. He was trying to extort money from your family. That's his motivation, you're saying?
I know that there was a demand for money in exchange for a commitment that he could make this investigation go away along with his co-conspirators. They even claimed to have specific connections inside the Biden White House. Now, I don't know if that's true. They were promising that Joe Biden would pardon me. Obviously, I don't need a pardon. I'm not seeking a pardon. I have not done anything improper or wrong. But what I am troubled by is the real motivation for all of this. You know, just tonight, Ted Lieu, a Democrat, is calling on me to be removed from the House Judiciary Committee. And I believe we are in an era of our politics now, Tucker, where people are smeared to try to take them out of the conversation. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You were accused of something that you did not do, and so you know what this feels like. You know the pain it can bring to your family, and you know how it just puts people on defense when you're accused of something so salacious and awful. But it did not happen. It is not true. And the fact that it is the basis of this attempt to extort my family tells a lot. And if the FBI and Department of Justice will release the tapes that they are in possession of, the American people will see what is really going on.
Gaetz isn't just a congressman. He's a vocal critic of Washington's most powerful institutions. He's pushed back against the FBI, the DOJ, and even those involved in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. For many, this made him a prime target for a smear campaign. There are still so many unanswered questions. Who leaked the investigation to the New York Times? Was Greenberg running a honeypot operation to ensnare politicians? And how did a random tax collector gain so much influence in this story? These questions point to a web of corruption and manipulation that goes far beyond Matt Gaetz. The Matt Gaetz scandal is more than just headlines. It's a window into how Washington operates, a place where accusations can be weaponized, reputations destroyed, and the truth buried under layers of political maneuvering. Whether you believe Gaetz is innocent or guilty, the bigger question remains: who's really pulling these strings in Washington? But what do you think? Was Matt Gaetz set up? Or is there more to this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the headlines.